Oh, okay. Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? Well, time change must be the reason why that song keeps going through my head. For a few days, I'm confused about what time it is. Anybody else? And then to add to the confusion, I have all these clients in Europe who don't change their clocks for another 3 weeks. So it points out to me how arbitrary what it says on that clock is. It also has me thinking about how much we really do care about time. In fact, it's pretty interesting that we care so much about time, since on the spiritual level, on the absolute level, on the God level, time doesn't exist. In fact, Einstein said the only purpose for time is so that everything doesn't happen at once. He was a very funny guy, Einstein. Yes, we care about time. In fact, we talk about time all the time. Have you noticed that? I mean, we use words like using time and losing time and saving time and overtime and prime time and crunch time and we have a good time and we have a bad time. And not only do we talk about time all the time, but we talk about it as if it's something you can hold in your hand. It's something you can count, something that's absolute, something real, something tangible. And is it? We live on this three-dimensional realm, this relative realm, and so time has become very important. In fact, a lot of us base our whole lives on time, like we don't eat until 6 o'clock. It's pretty weird that we base so much and we create structure around something that doesn't even exist. No wonder we're confused. So, yes, there's nothing absolute about time. And one of the main ways we talk about time is about how limited it is. Now, how can something that doesn't exist be limited? And time on the relative realm is very relative. I don't know if you've noticed that. In fact, Einstein also said, when somebody asked him to explain the theory of relativity in a non-scientific way, he said, yes, imagine 10 seconds sitting on a park bench with your lover. That wasn't even the funny part, but that's it. And now imagine 10 seconds sitting on a hot stove. This is how Einstein explained the relativity of time, okay? There's something online called Zoll's laws. It's really hard to say. Z-A-L-L apostrophe S. There's only 2 Zoll's laws that I know of, and number 2 is how long a minute is depends on which side of the bathroom door you are on. Can anybody relate to that? I remember working in Harris back in the day when we had to pay off every jackpot because it was a mechanical, all mechanical machines, right? And I would see the jackpot light go off, and I would get over there within what I thought was 2 or 3 minutes. And every time I did that, somebody would say, "I've been waiting 20 minutes to get this money." Really? Anyway, very relative. Certainly not absolute. So we can continue to allow time to be our focus and to give our attention to this illusionary thing, yes? And to focus on how much there is or how little there is, and essentially become a victim to time. Or we can rise above, we can transcend time by remembering that eternity is not a length of time. Eternity is the depth of this moment. Again, Hillary covered all this. Are there any questions? We talk about time as if it's the most precious thing we have, but the most precious thing we have is this moment. It's all here in this moment. You know, so if we want to celebrate God, we have to celebrate this moment. If we want to nurture wholeness, we have to nurture this moment. If we want to embrace wholeness, we have to embrace this moment. If we want to embody the truth of our being, we have to embody this moment with our presence. We don't have to, but it might be a good idea. If we want to use our time better, then perhaps we have to think about how we use the present moment and what our relationship to the present moment is. Because I don't know about you, but I look at a lot of present, not anymore since I'm so evolved now, but historically, I might look at the present moment as something to get through. Anybody look at moments that way? You know, once I get through this moment, I'll be okay, right? Or I'm using this moment as a stepping stone to some better moment in the future, which, how the heck do I know if it's going to be a better moment in the future? I am doing the best I can by doing that and making this moment not the best moment. If you followed that, you're good. Hey, yeah. You know, we teach in Unity, we teach in chiropractic as well, that we each and all of us have everything we need within us to thrive on all levels, to experience well-being on all levels, to be the person we can be, yes? But that's only true now. I'd say, and I didn't make this up, this is Emily Cady, that God is always knocking at the door of our consciousness. The present moment is the door. It's the crack between the worlds. It's not just the worlds of past and future, but the world of spirit and form, heaven and earth. It all comes together and meets in this moment. The fact is that God is always knocking on the door, but a lot of times we're not home. We're on our cell phone, that's right. Well, we better tell God to start calling us on our cell phone instead of knocking on the door. Then we'll be home. So, so instead of letting time use us, again, let's look at our relationship with the present moment so we can make better use of this thing we call time and have a better time. Instead of being victims of time, let's become more of a friend to the present moment. You know, because if we're not using it as a stepping stone, we might even be using it as an obstacle or an enemy. What would it be like? What would it be like if we were a friend to the moment? Well, hello, moment. Welcome. Would that make a difference? I mean, how much time do we waste waiting for better moments, praying for better moments, rehashing past better moments, rehashing past worse moments? Yeah. No, I actually came prepared today. I just forgot where I put it. Sorry, we're good. We're good. I showed her my pretty handkerchiefs. So yes, and especially instead of allowing time to be yet another example of lack in our minds and in our lives, right? Not enough time. How are you doing today? Hectic? How's life? Busy? So instead of that, instead of that, maybe we can dive a little more deeply into the eternity of each moment. Can we? Maybe we can start that by being grateful for some of those moments. Yes? Maybe we can start that by consciously breathing in more of those moments, like by being actually in our bodies, being home. Let's stay home for some more of these moments. Instead of time traveling or wishing we were somewhere else because it's obviously better than here. Yeah. Yeah. Instead of stressing over how much time we have or how little time, let's see how much more present we can be to the present. Maybe that's why they call it the present. You know, in the Bible, over and over, it says something about in the fullness of time. In the fullness of time, this will happen. In the fullness of time, that will happen. And the implication is when God decrees, it's the right time. Well, I'm here to tell you, it is the right time. That the fullness of time is now. Because if it's not now, it's never. Okay? So it's not about how much time. It's not about how much time. It's about presence. It's about intention. It's about love. It's about all the things that allow us to maybe dive a little more deeply into this moment. When I was busy in my chiropractic practice, and Juliet can vouch for this, we once did a survey of the people who came in and asked them, how long do you think you're in the room with Dr. Stu getting adjusted? And the average turned out to be between 8 and 9 minutes. And the actual time was 2. Why do you think that is? They were in there with me for 2. For some people, it probably seemed like 2 years. But for most people, why did they think it was 8 or 9 minutes when it was 2? Because they were present, because I recognize this now. I didn't really understand it at the time, but we created an environment and an experience for people that allowed them to dive more deeply than they probably did in the rest of their lives. And then we go to Panama, and I do chiropractic missions in Panama, and those 2 minutes becomes 8 seconds. 8 seconds. I adjusted 2,000 people in 4 hours. You can do the math, 5 hours. I think it's 8.6 seconds or something per person. That includes going to the bathroom a couple of times. So it's probably less than that. But I have to tell you, I've never dived or dove, whatever the right word is, more deeply in those 8 seconds in my life. Never felt that deep a connection with somebody, never felt so present. And not only did we see miracles left and right, but I bet every one of those 2,000 people I adjusted that one particular day remembers their adjustment and remembers how deeply they dove. And this is the possibility. We don't have to go to Panama for this, folks. It's too hot there anyway. God time isn't limited. God time is not limiting. And I say that, and I know there are people sitting here and say, well, you don't know my schedule. You don't know my plate. And I acknowledge that we have hectic and busy lives. I acknowledge that a lot of us feel like we don't have enough time. I succumb to that perception sometimes myself. In fact, I'm 67 years old, and sometimes the clock is ticking pretty loud. So, if and when a thought of lack around time pops into our heads, you think that might happen? I know it'll happen with me. So if and when that happens, let's remember the words of one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Eknath Easwaran, who said, if you're concerned about not having enough time, stop wasting the time you have. And I gotta believe that every single one of us wastes at least some time worrying about not having enough time. And I gotta believe there's probably some other things. In fact, Hillary and I, as I've told you before in the past, do a weekly couples Sabbath. And part of that is to do a written exercise. We switch off every week coming up with the exercise. And maybe a couple times now over the years, we've done one where we visualize our last day. We visualize our last day on this planet, assuming we have our physical and mental capabilities still. What would we do with this day? Okay, this is a very valuable exercise. This is similar to a Buddhist exercise where they think about and meditate on their impermanence so they know, they learn about how they want to live. Okay, are you with me? Well, I think actually probably an even more valuable exercise would be to think about your last day and think about what you would not do. Because I have a feeling I would not waste a lot of time on my last day complaining. I wouldn't spend any time on my last day beating myself up over past choices. I would not spend any time on my last day worrying about future choices. That part would be easy. Ty got that one. I wrote down some other things I wouldn't spend time on. No. I would not waste time beating myself up or worrying. I would not waste time holding things on myself or others. I would not waste time wishing things were different than they were. I would not waste time stressing over things I have absolutely no control over. I would not waste time, especially if Hillary was still there with me on my last day, fighting about how to cook spaghetti or about the best way to get to the clubs on the weekend or anything like that. I would not spend my time arguing because I want to be right. Would any of you do any of these things on your last day? Why the heck are we doing them now? I don't know. So, I would suggest, and you might want to take 2 seconds and do this now, maybe jot down some things that you wouldn't do on your last day, and guess what? Maybe start not doing them now. You think that would be a valuable exercise? Go at it. Go at it. We don't have any pens for you, but because you know what? I have a feeling on my last day, I probably won't have any idea what time it is. And I hope I don't care. Okay? And I want to start practicing that now. So I invite you to start practicing that now too. Because the time is now, and because there's no time like the present. Look, I got 2 more expressions about time in right at the very end there. Let's close our eyes for a moment. Yeah, precious Spirit of love, thank you. Thank you for the eternity of this moment and the eternity of this moment and of every moment that we are present to. And we make an intention right now to plumb those depths just a little more, to sink our roots more deeply into more of our moments, to celebrate them, to nurture them, to embrace them. Because that's how we celebrate you and celebrate ourselves right here and now. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.